Angela. I am a 35-year-old INFP female. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. Buffalo was great, and it was very close to Canada. So going on day trips to Niagara-on-the-Lake and to Toronto will always, hold a special place in my heart. But ultimately it was a little cold there, so my husband and I ended up moving to Florida. And Florida is absolutely wonderful and warm and sunny, and it's great. We live here with our two cats, Rio and Nairobi, who are always getting into mischief. If there's any cats that seem like toddlers, more like toddlers than cats, it would definitely be these two. So they always keep life interesting. If you're ever thinking about moving to a warmer place, by the way, please do your research as far as cost of living goes, because there's other warmer places aside from Florida that are much, much cheaper. Definitely keep that in mind as a side note. As far as interests go, I absolutely love anime. Sailor Moon and Digimon were kind of like my gateway anime, and K-dramas. Things like My Hollow Love and Crash Landing on You. I'm currently watching Pachinko and some mermaid show right now. I've only watched like one episode of each, so we'll see how those ones go. So comedies are also awesome. Just anything that makes you laugh. I mean, it's just so helpful in life, and Kung Pao Under the Fist will always be near and dear to my heart, even though it's very cheesy now, but back in the day it was pretty awesome. I still end up quoting it to this day. So yeah, as far as music goes, I like anything that's alt rock or indie or J-pop and K-pop, obviously. So yeah, that's just a little about me, and I'd love to hear about everybody else. And how I discovered that I'm an INFP. Basically, I took the test. I took it multiple times, and the first time that I took it, it was kind of in between an INFP, INFJ. I didn't take it at the 16 personalities site. I took it from a different site, and it was actually done by a psychology student. And this person, I have a background in social science and creating surveys, so I was kind of trained in how to create questions like that. And basically you want to make sure that you don't have any questions that could be taken multiple different ways depending on the example. And this student clearly didn't do that, and there were a lot of general questions, a lot of questions that could go either way depending on which example you're thinking about. So I was kind of in between an INFP and INFJ when I took it a couple times. And then I took it from a couple other sites. I took it from the 16 personality site, and I realized that I was a solid INFP. So that's pretty much how I figured that out.
So how I discovered I was an INFP, that's a really good question. So it was in my postgraduate training. There was a topic that was off the usual topic. I work in healthcare. And it's more to do with physical health than, say, mental health issues. And most of the topics are quite practical, which was always quite difficult for me, and I recognised that, but I just didn't know why. The teacher came and said, today we are talking about personality types, and my brain straight away lit up, thought, this is interesting, I'm interested in this. And funnily enough, I tested as an ENFP, but originally my test was in my early 20s or mid 20s, and I think I just was skimming it as an extrovert, so like 51%. And as I took the test again a decade later, I very much was 2/3 introvert, so things either changed or maybe the test at the time was maybe inaccurately done. But whatever it is, I strongly identify as INFP now. So that was the first, introduction to it, and it was a light bulb moment. It was probably the best session of the year. We would have different topics every week, and I would say that was the topic that stuck with me and really changed the way I saw myself and others. And I think it's a really important thing to teach. to learn about in all fields in life, in relationships. Just understanding the basics will help, a lot of misunderstandings, and give a lot of space for people, and also grace to understand that they work the way their minds work. And obviously, I'm sure there's people who don't want to take the test or don't like the idea of it, but for those that who understand it can really benefit. So that's how I found out I was an INFP.
I think there is the stereotype of INFPs to be this emotional crybaby, super sensitive to everything, and maybe to an extent I was as a teenager trying to figure things out, hormonal, different things like that. But I think for me the bigger struggle was just being introverted and having social anxiety disorder and trying to figure out how to navigate that. I know not all INFPs face this, but some do, many do. So for me, it was just learning how to navigate, how to come up with coherent sentences when I'm like super nervous and terrified, how to get through job interviews, how to get through high school, how to get through college. And that has impacted my life a whole lot more than I ever would have thought when I was going to school. Basically, in school, I ended up having to push myself through lots and lots of panic attacks and things like that. But on the job, when you're going to college, like people, you're paying them in order to take the courses and to be there. On the job, they're paying you, and they are looking for somebody that can produce the quality of work, somebody that can be very, expressive, and verbal communication is huge on so many different things. Most job descriptions that I've seen has to do with that. And over the years, I've gotten so much better at it. But for now, it's just, it was still a struggle. So just kind of dealing with that. And then, a lot of times, like, they would give you grace in the job interviews too, and not take that into account. But then once I got to the job, it was kind of a different story. And, I would watch, I ended up getting stuck in call center work for a while, and I would watch as the extroverts just totally took off. And if the smooth talkers, they could just have no experience, they could whiz through an interview, get a job, get the promotion real quick. And for me, I just kind of struggled with everything. So that has impacted me a lot, dealing with how to try to get promotions, things like that. So I guess that's kind of where my biggest struggle was.
So the challenges I faced as an INFP, I think the first challenge was probably not knowing that I was. So maybe, I don't know when we actually test, and I tested in my mid-20s, I would say. I would have loved to have done this test in my teens. That would have helped me so much in terms of career and path and choosing, and also the teen angst that we all go through, doesn't matter what type we are. But just having a basis of like the way I work and what are my strong and weak points, I think learning earlier about your type would be better. Also the challenge of, once you realize the way your mind works is not to fight it, really. Because sometimes our type is not as prevalent in, say, parts of Western world. It might be prevalent in different other parts of the world. So when everybody has that cliche saying of, oh, I feel different, but we really do feel different if we are a lower percentage of the population. So the first step is accepting yourself and not fighting it, and so that's a way of overcoming that. Also learning more about it, really, and not being scared. I know that sounds strange, but we do live in a world of feelings, and I think things have got better for us personally in the Western world. I think we are talking about mental health more and emotions and feelings. I certainly know with children are being taught at school more about it, and definitely when I was at school it wasn't a big topic, so we are moving forward, hopefully. I think also educating people. So for me personally, I educate those around me, those I'm in close contact with, or who are open to listen. So in the workplace, they're my closest colleagues who, you develop over time a level of trust. Then, you introduce them to these topics, and, for the most part, they are like totally, I found actually the people who are NF, intuitive feelers, they love it. They love this topic, and I think we know that we love this topic. While others just find it like, okay, now let's move on. So you know who you're talking to. So yeah, I guess the challenge is, staying the course and, keep in people's mind when people are hitting friction or problems, especially at home or in the workplace, do remind people we do have like some basic personality types and ways of doing things that might not see eye to eye, and give people some space and grace to, be themselves and accept them of themselves. So yeah, the challenge is, I guess, is first accepting yourself. And secondly is educating those around you, as I said, those closest to you first. So that's what I would say is the challenge I faced. And I think a lot of us will understand that, we constantly get misunderstood, and somebody who just gets us really does make our world different. And it sometimes seems such a small thing, like, why do you want to be understood? I don't even know that. But I just know when somebody does understand me, it makes my life so much easier, and, it does allow me to be myself. So that's what I would say, main challenges I found.
Basically, I used to take criticism very harshly growing up. I was raised in a very, very critical, very rigid environment. So I was used to, yes ma'am, no sir, do this, do that, not having much agency or much of a voice at all. And for context, I'm 35 now, so things have changed dramatically over the years. So I've learned that people have different reasons for saying things, and that constructive criticism, for instance, that comes from a very good place, and that comes from somebody who genuinely is in your corner, who wants you to do well, and they're helping you help yourself. They're helping you do your job better. They're helping you with your work. They're helping you to improve in whatever situation and whatever capacity that is. And then there's others that might be saying some things to, just kind of throw you off track because they're jealous or whatever. They can be jealous of a significant other. They can be jealous of a career, and the boss having favor with them, different things like that. So I've always learned to take the context into account. And there might be multiple reasons why they're saying something, or, they might be saying something to make you look bad to others, different things like that. And I've definitely learned to just kind of watch and observe and figure out what the other person wants. Do they want what's best for me? Do they want what's best for them? And then just kind of figuring out how I'm going to handle the situation from there. And that has helped tremendously. So it's very important that you surround yourself with good people. That is, when it comes to personal things and friendship and personal development, that you have good people in your corner, that you've got people who have integrity and who are there to support you, and we're all here to lift each other up. We're not here to compete or tear each other down. And to find people like that and to make them your inner circle of friends, versus just, somebody that you might find on the job, or somebody that might just want to hang out but has been constantly demonstrating a lot of selfish behavior. To just kind of learn to observe people and learn to kind of be a little bit more choosy and a little bit more careful as far as who you let into your inner circle and your personal life, and who you allow to speak into your life. that has helped me tremendously over the years. And realizing also that, you know, when somebody does speak negative of you, that it's usually not about you. You know, it's usually about their jealousy or their whatever agenda they've got. And to be able to realize that, I was probably in my mid to late 20s when I realized that. And that has done wonders for my self-esteem, my mental health, just navigating life and having more confidence in general. So being able to kind of tell the difference between actual constructive criticism and something coming from a very negative place it's been freeing and it's been wonderful. And I just hope and pray that all you guys can really learn how to read people and really make the best decisions for yourselves too. All right. Basically, there's been a lot of new situations in my life. I went to a very small private high school to a huge, or what seemed like huge at the time, even though there was only like 130 people in my graduating class, but it was a larger, you know, public high school. So that was very difficult. And then going from that to college, and, you know, the college that I went to, the University of Buffalo, had like probably 65,000 people on campus at any given time, between the two campuses, between all the staff too, and students. So that was a huge change for me, having to speak up in class a whole lot more, having to present more, debate in class with my fellow students. Not every major is like that, but cultural anthropology definitely was. So there were a whole lot of new challenges and struggles for me, and I guess as a female INFP, I just had to learn how to adapt and learn how to, you know, just kind of transform myself to fit the situation. And I mean, I'm not talking about like suppressing my personality for other people. I'm talking about just general people skills, general, you know, trying to open myself up more, just to function better in the new environment, and learning different skills in order to do that. So I would say definitely resiliency, definitely learning how to adapt. And that has played a huge role in everything. You know, it brings to mind this story of, you know, prisoners of war and the eternal optimists. You know, they're like, oh, things are gonna get better eventually, things are gonna get better, things are gonna get better. And they just eventually just kind of lost hope. And then there were the pessimists who didn't have any hope, and they would get sick, they just were just depressed. And then there were the resilient ones, the ones who would just kind of learn to adapt in their situation. And they were actually the ones that did the best when it came to adversity, when it came to just kind of going with the flow and taking each day as it comes, not having any expectations, but to just kind of make the best with what they had, and just kind of going from there. So I learned a lot from that. And, you know, just being resilient, letting things go that need to be let go, you know, becoming stronger, learning different skill sets, and things like that have really helped. Also on the job, you know, in a more practical situation where most of us would actually have to deal with, definitely to learn to pick and choose my battles, you know, because there's some situations where not every situation requires you to speak up and to start an argument and no, it's this way, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously there are some situations, you know, definitely things like racism should be confronted, misogyny, definitely. But if somebody just wants to argue with you, if somebody just wants to create strife, if somebody wants to portray you as argumentative, definitely don't fall for it. And there's a lot sometimes it's better to be at peace and to let them just run their mouths and just like, okay, they're doing their thing. Some people might take them seriously, some people won't, but it might make things worse to argue with them. And so to learn when and where to pick and choose your battles has been huge for me. So that's definitely been a part of it too. The last thing is, a lot of times, like, we get tired. A lot of times we get so much thrown at us that we don't know how we're gonna get through the next day, you know, just taking it one day at a time, just kind of surviving. But I always just kind of like look at it as all growth is gonna be uncomfortable. We can't really grow, we can't really improve if we stay the same and in our comfort zone. And that reminds me of one other story. There was a researcher, and the researcher was doing work with butterflies, and they saw that this new butterfly was having a hard time emerging from the cocoon. And so they decided to help the butterfly out and cut the cocoon open so that it could just emerge and go on its merry way. And basically, the butterfly wasn't able to fly after that. And the person was wondering, what did I do? What happened? And apparently when butterflies are struggling to emerge from the cocoon, there's a lot of blood flow that's happening in the wings, and it's building up strength, and it's nourishing the wings and preparing them for that flight in order to be able to handle it. And if we just take the easy way out, if we just, kind of just try to avoid everything or just want the easy life, then we're never going to get that growth. We're never going to be able to get past that situation to be able to be strengthened enough to fly. So sometimes the best way to go about something is not to go around something, but to go through it. And it really is definitely situation and context specific, but to just kind of step back and decide which situation you want to go forward with, which situation you want to try to find another way around. Again, picking and choosing your battles. There's definitely a lot of wisdom in that. So I hope that helps somebody.
So for nearly 2 decades, I have known now that I type as an INFP. I would say initially I was really, fascinated, but then it lulled and I got back into my normal ways of thinking and not really giving it much credence in my life. And then maybe again, like a decade later in my mid-30s, I realized, I'm not being understood again. And so then it reminded me, oh, wait a minute, my personality type I did about 10 years ago. Maybe I should look into that more. So I joined some similar type Facebook groups, and I really, really enjoyed that interaction. And I found myself like maybe gelling with 1, 2, or maybe 3 people in a large group, and then we would have amazing conversations over online, and it suited us because we're introverts. We don't really want to talk on the phone. We don't really want to FaceTime. We just want to have like deep chats, and we did, and it was amazing. And it actually was really amazing because it was like about 4 of us, and there was like 1, 2 in Canada, 1 in America, one myself, and I remember that time really well. And we would have a good banter, and eventually 2 of them ended up getting married, which was phenomenal. And it was and it was, I did really feel at the time that although it seems not real because it's online, there was something actually more real about it, because we don't operate on the same. We operate on a deeper level, and when we're in the real world, that can be kind of superficial for us. So where we're trying to sort of meet the needs of maybe people who are more sensory or live in the real world projections. But when we're online, we can be ourselves and be deeper. And so people see the real us. And so I'm not surprised that people got married, because they saw their deeper self being reflected. But again, I think time went on, and I don't know, I kind of left that group. And I think, again, I focused in my real world and online world. myself got married, and funnily enough, when I got married, I wasn't actually looking at MBTI types, which you think you would, but I kind of forgot about it again. And I think that's meant to happen. Sometimes you just meet people and you get on and you take things as they come. And then as life goes on and I'm married, then you face hurdles and challenges, and then you remember personality types and think, oh, wait a minute, we keep hitting the same problems, and maybe we should have checked personality types and things like that. And so I did that, and then I got back into making it a mission to look into my spouse's personality type and mine and see how we can improve things. And that's why I joined the group again. So I joined the group again about 4 months ago, and I've just really enjoyed sharing memes. As you can see, there's lots of memes there, or joining in the conversation wherever I feel I can benefit. So yeah, that's my evolving, into the personality types. Again, I'm not I haven't done any psychology degree. I haven't got any deep understanding of it like I know some people on the group have. I would definitely say I'm still learning a lot, and learning about myself and learning about the typings. I've just discovered the other typings as well, but it's just helped me feel more, which is what we like to do. So I just feel more in my life because I'm feeling more understood by the group. So yeah, definitely it's an evolving path that I'm enjoying, being on. And again, in this group, I can definitely say there's a few people that I've felt a soul connection to, and souls are really important to our types. We understand the depth of soul. So if there's somebody I feel that I'm having a deep conversation with and there's resonance there, I'll maintain that conversation. And for the group in general, there's that care really, just to look out for people, or just to, words matter. I think a lot of people think they're just words, but words do really matter. They do really take effect and root, and they can really change somebody's day. They can change somebody's life.
I would say being a female INFP has helped me to definitely to love myself a lot more and to develop confidence and draw from that. And I grew up with a ton of criticism and very harsh, strict, rule-regulated environments. And, I got a lot of it from parents, from school, having to go to school when I was having panic attacks, things like that. Somewhat in college, and definitely a lot of criticism in my career, being quiet and having to kind of learn how and when to speak up and different things like that, and how to say certain things too. It's a learning process, and it's something that a lot of young 20-somethings go through. And so basically, when I stepped back and looked at all my interests and who I was as a person, I asked myself if I would want to be friends with somebody like that, and the answer was absolutely. Of course I'd want to, be friends with somebody who's, artistic and who wants to help people, who is into different, unique TV shows, different foreign films. If you look at your interests and you think, would I want to be friends with somebody like that? Definitely. No matter what your interests are. I mean, you could be interested in music, video games, whatever. And we're INFPs, so we do have a strong moral compass. So we're not just gonna bowl over somebody in my way or the highway, So we are good friend material. And I think all of that put together has really done a lot for my confidence, for my self-esteem, and has really encouraged me to move forward in pretty much anything that I try to do.
The greatest thing about being female INFP, I guess, is the depth of feeling that we are able to access. It gives us a unique perspective. It gives us deeper joys. it also gives us a stronger pain and more fragility with regards to our mental health. But once we're aware of it, we can actually protect ourselves more. I think we put it up a lot on the group, like healthy boundaries, things like that. But being able to feel this deep is absolutely amazing, and recognizing that not everyone has that, and you've been lucky that you can actually feel deep joys and all the other feelings really, but we tend to like joy more. But we can feel, and that's amazing. And I think also for me the introversion part is knowing that I don't have to immerse myself in everything, and I can happily be on my own. We're not scared as much of being on our own, which makes us braver, which is something that seems a bit contradictory, but yeah, we're brave. And the intuitive part, well, that's the most wonderful thing when it comes to human connection, is having an intuition. And that's what we love. Well, what I love human connection and deep connections and fast. So yeah, I'm absolutely grateful for those functions. And the P just makes me a bit more relaxed, go with the flow type. So again, working in bursts of energy, and lists are boring, come on. So I really, really love everything about being an IFP, and I wouldn't want to be anything else. I do sometimes think to fit in the real world, a J, like INFJ, is probably as close as I would like to be. Maybe PJ in the middle somewhere, 50%, so I can get things done faster and not procrastinate so much. So my 3 words to describe INFP in the way I felt being one, or how I receive others, is authentic, deep, and mystical. Those are my 3 words, and I think a lot of us will relate, especially the mystical, the ethereal fantasy world that we love. So yeah, that's my take on being INFP.